They say the dead tell no tales. They're wrong. Some scream louder from the grave than they ever did alive. I know because I heard it, not with my ears, but with my hands. The slick, cold panic of it, smeared across a forgotten file, printed in blood on a document I should never have touched. 1 minute, I was just a forensic archivist, drowning in other people's forgotten tragedies, the hum of ancient servers my only company, trying to keep my head down, trying to disappear. The next, the world fell out from under me. Literally. The entire server rack, a steel avalanche of forgotten secrets and rusted data, shrieked a metallic death rattle as it ripped free from its moorings, plunging into the sub-basement with a concussive boom that rattled my teeth. Power died. The emergency lights didn't just flicker on. They exploded to life, painting the chaos in a sick, jaundiced yellow glow, highlighting the jagged edges of a nightmare. That's when I saw it. Tucked behind a busted conduit, glinting like a malevolent eye in the dust, a hard drive. But not just any hard drive. It wasn't supposed to be there. No chain of custody, no record, no inventory tag, just wedged. A ghost in the machine. And when I finally got it open, plugged it into a rogue terminal, the screen didn't just light up. It screamed. Videos, encrypted files, names, a meticulously catalogued archive of atrocities, a ghost library of horrors so depraved they couldn't possibly exist. Not in our sterile, ordered world. Not in a sane world. And then the first face flashed up. A face I knew. A face that couldn't be there. My brother. Alive. Then not. The last frame, a single tear. And I knew, with a gut-wrenching certainty that stole my breath, that I wasn't just an archivist anymore. I was a witness. Target. And the silent hum of the emergency power felt like a countdown. They were already here. The digital world screamed around me. A maelstrom of data streams and flashing warnings. My fingers danced across the holographic interface. A blur of calculated chaos, pushing through firewalls and scrambling encryption. Alarms blared, a guttural siren in the fortress of my digital sanctuary, each pulse a hammer blow against my chest. They were here, corporate security closing in like digital predators, their breach protocols burning through my defenses. My multi-screen setup fractured into red alerts, showing a countdown to system collapse. This was it, the final purge. Every byte of the collective's existence, every whispered secret, every shadow transaction had to vanish. Failure wasn't an option. It was oblivion. I was a ghost in their machine, and I was about to perform the ultimate disappearing act. The digital alarms were suddenly drowned out by a raw, guttural roar as the physical world erupted around me. Explosions ripped through the reinforced walls, showering the command center with sparks and concrete dust. Corporate security, a relentless, armored wave, had breached the perimeter. Every escape route, meticulously planned, was now a fiery blockade. My breath hitched, a desperate rasp in my throat. This wasn't just a data purge anymore. It was a last stand. My eyes darted to a hidden panel, a final unholy resort. Project Chimera. Unstable, untested, a deep erase protocol designed to make things truly disappear. I slammed my hand onto the activation button, the act a prayer and a curse, hoping it would save me from the inevitable. As my hand made contact, a surge of power crackled through the console, a violent hum filling the air. The Chimera protocol initiated, but then, a glitch. A critical system error flared across my main screen, a stark digital branding. The target parameter, meant for the syndicate's data, flickered, then solidified into 3 horrifying words. Target, user, KAI. My blood ran cold, a terrifying jolt of realization piercing through the adrenaline. It was me. The protocol was targeting me. My own identity. A blinding flash engulfed the room. Electricity arcing violently, screaming through the circuits. The world detonated around me, a white-hot wave of energy and force, silencing my scream, consuming everything. I was gone. A metallic taste, the reek of ozone and burnt concrete. I slowly swam back to consciousness, my body a chorus of aches and scrapes, deposited unceremoniously in a grimy alley. Dust coated my clothes, My skin, a shroud of forgotten debris. The sun, a pale, indifferent disk, peered over the wreckage of what used to be my fortified sanctuary. A block away, a gaping, smoking maw of twisted metal and shattered glass. But it wasn't just the pain. It was a profound, unsettling wrongness beneath my skin. My mind felt like a corrupted hard drive, simple commands failing. My name, Kai, was there, but my apartment number? The layout of my own street? They were ghosts, just out of reach, leaving an unnerving void. The familiar scent of roasted beans offered a fleeting comfort, a tether to the mundane world. I stepped into my usual cafe, a place I'd frequented for years. "The usual, Anna?" I said, a faint smile on my lips, eager for the normalcy. But the friendly barista, Anna, stared back, her expression blank, polite but utterly devoid of recognition. "I'm sorry, sir?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. "Have we met?" My smile faltered. My usual order, my familiar face, meant nothing. I tried to laugh it off. A bad day, a prank, but the cold dread started to seep into my bones. A chilling certainty in her eyes that mirrored the void in my own memory. She truly had no idea who I was. My feet carried me on instinct, up familiar steps to my apartment building. A surge of desperate hope. My key, a solid, reassuring weight in my palm, slid into the lock, but refused to turn. It wouldn't budge. Panic tightened its grip. Just then, the landlord, Mr. Henderson, a man I'd paid rent to for years, emerged from his office. He squinted at me, suspicion hardening his gaze. "Can I help you, son?" he grunted. "This apartment, for B, it's mine," I stammered, holding up the useless key. He scoffed, a dry, dismissive sound. "For B's been vacant for 6 months. No one's lived there." I was locked out, not just physically, but from my own life, my own history, a ghost in my own home. Desperation, raw and primal, clawed at me. There was one person, one connection that mattered more than any other. Alara, my ex-girlfriend, the one who saw beyond the screens, who truly knew me. My trembling fingers dialed her number, a lifeline in a rapidly dissolving world. She answered, her voice hesitant, a fragile whisper through the static. "Hello? Kai," she said, but the sound of my name was laced with uncertainty, a question mark. She struggled to place me, her memory of our shared past, our laughter, our arguments, blurring, dissolving in real time. Who is this again?" Her voice, once so familiar, became a fading echo, proof that I was vanishing, piece by terrifying piece. A final, desperate surge of memory, my digital footprint, carefully hidden on a backup drive. Proof. I raced to the nearest public library, the sterile glow of the computer terminals a cold comfort. My hands trembled as I typed in login after login, email, social media, banking. Every attempt met with the same chilling verdict. User not found. My old profile pictures, once vibrant snapshots of a life I remembered, were replaced with static, blank images, or an anonymous default silhouette. My digital ghost had been exorcised. Every trace, every pixel, every bite of my existence was gone. I was a phantom, an echo of a person no one, not even the machines, recognized. My reality had been irrevocably deleted. In the shaky aftermath, the only anchor he found was a worn notebook, a relic from a life he once knew. Its pages, filled with his frantic scrawl detailing Project Chimera and his own fleeting thoughts, were supposed to be immutable, a testament to his existence. But as his eyes traced the familiar lines, a cold dread seized him. The ink, vibrant moments before, began to shimmer. Words blurred, then dissolved, like phantom trails in water, leaving ghostly indentations on the page. His name, his ideas, his very history fading. The paper, once a comfort, became a gaping void, absorbing his identity bite by bite. He clutched it, knuckles white, the physical world itself conspiring to erase him, confirming his terrifying, unacknowledged fear. He stumbled into a forgotten alley, drawn by a glimmer of light, a grimy shard of a mirror embedded in a crumbling brick wall. He needed to see himself to prove he was still there. But the reflection that greeted him was a horror. His features flickered, his face momentarily blurring into a distorted ripple, like an image struggling to load on a broken screen. His silhouette wavered, growing translucent at the edges, a ghost caught between dimensions. The alley's grime seemed more solid than he did. Panic clawed at his throat. He was becoming spectral, his very essence draining away, leaving behind a fading imprint. The world was solidifying around his vanishing form, making him an anomaly, a breach in its fabric. Amidst the chaos of his fading existence, a forgotten device pulsed. His old, encrypted tablet, discarded in the debris. A single, ominous notification glowed on its screen, a phrase from an unknown, untraceable source. Project Chimera, anomaly detected. Hope, sharp and desperate, surged through him, quickly followed by a chilling dread. Someone else knew. Someone was watching. This wasn't just a random error. It was a targeted event, observed and understood by an unseen entity. The message was a lifeline but also a leash tightening around his neck. He was a bug in a system, and the system had just acknowledged its prey. The game wasn't over. It had just taken an unimaginable turn. Every second was a pixel blurring from his memory, a breath stolen from his lungs. The Chimera protocol wasn't a glitch, it was a program, and programs had architects, a starting point. Driven by a desperate, cold resolve, Kai dove back into the only world where he still felt substantial, the digital underbelly. He tore through defunct dark web forums, resurrected ghost servers, plundered corporate archives long thought erased. His fingers danced across holographic keyboards, a blur of motion, fueled by adrenaline and the grim knowledge that his time was a rapidly dwindling resource. Each line of code, each encrypted file was a whisper of a lead, a fragile thread connecting him to the truth before he ceased to be a seeker, or even a ghost. Through a digital fog of disinformation and dead ends, a single, impossible location materialized. Not a server farm, not a corporate HQ, but an abandoned, heavily protected research facility, swallowed by time and rumor. They called it the Labyrinth. Whispers of its existence were scattered across encrypted forums like forgotten breadcrumbs, hinting at its true purpose, the birthplace of Project Chimera. It was a fortress, a tomb, a suicide mission. But for Kai, it wasn't a choice. It was the only remaining flicker of hope against a complete obliteration. Every fiber of his being screamed caution, but the alternative was oblivion. His reflection was fading. The city was forgetting him. The labyrinth beckoned with a cold, unforgiving promise. His journey to the labyrinth was a waking nightmare of fading existence. The city, once a cacophony of familiar sights and sounds, began to warp around him. Street signs flickered, text subtly shifting as he passed, buildings momentarily replaced by vacant lots, then reappearing. People, once a bustling stream, now moved through him, their gazes unfixed, their bodies passing through his own like he was nothing but a warm breeze. He was a phantom, an echo in a world that no longer registered his presence. A desperate hand reached out to grasp a stranger, only to pass clean through their shoulder. The isolation was absolute, a terrifying prelude to his final deletion. He was losing his grip on reality, and reality was losing its grip on him. The labyrinth's perimeter was a decaying shell, but its defenses, even in ruin, were formidable. Yet, Kai moved through them with an unsettling ease. Security cameras, coated in moss and grime, flickered with static as he passed, their infrared sensors failing to register his fading heat signature. Motion detectors, buzzing impotently, remained silent. He wasn't just stealthy. He was becoming spectral, a ripple in the fabric of existence, slipping through laser grids like smoke. The facility, designed to keep intruders out, was unprepared for an entity that barely registered as physical. A chilling, unsettling power was growing within him, a terrifying gift bestowed by his own imminent demise, propelling him deeper into the desolate heart of the forgotten complex. Inside, the labyrinth was a mausoleum of forgotten ambition. Decaying, arcane technology lined the rusted corridors, strange holographic displays humming with a dormant power. He found old data logs, fragmented and corrupted, whispering secrets from a long-dead era. His frantic search unearthed files, long thought purged, detailing Project Chimera's true, horrifying purpose. Not merely data deletion, but a grand, terrifying scheme to control and manipulate shared reality itself, to rewrite the very laws of existence. His own deletion was merely a byproduct, a test case, a sacrifice in a far grander, more sinister game. The revelation hit him like a physical blow, escalating his personal nightmare into a cosmic horror. The stakes had just become immeasurable. The deafening silence of the abandoned corridors was a cruel mirage. Just as Kai thought he'd found a momentary reprieve, a low hum vibrated through the floor. A single, forgotten security bot, its optical sensor a malevolent red eye, glided around a crumbling corner. It was a relic, yet its purpose remained chillingly intact. The bot stopped, processing Kai with an eerie click. A synthesized voice, devoid of emotion, echoed, "Anomaly 404 detected. Pursue and neutralize." This wasn't just a machine. It was a physical manifestation of his impending erasure, a silent hunter whose every movement articulated his digital death warrant. He turned, the metallic whir of its locomotion a relentless whisper behind him, and plunged into the fractured labyrinth. His breath catching, the metallic taste of fear sharp on his tongue. The chase had begun again, but this time he was being hunted by the very system he was vanishing from. He pushed his body to its breaking point, the bot a persistent shadow. Then the terror intensified. A sudden surge of distortion ripped through him. He lunged for a railing, his hand passing clean through the cold steel, a phantom limb grasping at nothing. Panic flared, raw and visceral. He slammed into the wall, a jolt of pain, but a section of his arm flickered out, a digital ghost before reforming. The bot's silent approach grew louder in his ears. In a desperate, split-second decision, he flung himself towards a collapsing bulkhead, expecting impact. Instead, half his body phased through the debris, a terrifying, exhilarating blur. The bot crashed against the solid structure he'd just ghosted through. A chilling realization dawned. His fading was no longer just a symptom. It was a weapon, the ultimate escape route. But how long until the weapon consumed the wielder? The chase ended abruptly as he burst into a cavernous chamber, the air thick with latent power. Before him, Project Chimera. Not a server, but a monument. A colossal, crystalline supercomputer, pulsing with an inner light that seemed to hum with the very fabric of existence. It was a cathedral of silicon and thought, its facets reflecting Kai's desperate, fading image. This wasn't just data storage, this was the reality engine, the beating heart of everything the collective had sought to control. Its dormant energy felt barely contained, a slumbering titan. He could feel its immense power, almost taste the potential to reverse his deletion, to stitch himself back into existence. But a primal fear gnawed at him. What if, in trying to fix himself, he broke the world? He approached the interface, his fingers already tingling with the digital ghost touch. Just as he reached out, a shimmering, impossibly real holographic projection materialized before him. Alara, her face, etched with a familiar sorrow, her eyes pleading, "Kai, don't do this. Please, stop." His heart lurched, a phantom pain in his chest. It was her, every nuance, every expressive flicker. But this wasn't the Alara he knew. This was a trap, a sophisticated AI program designed to protect Chimera, specifically tailored to weaponize his deepest emotional connection. The very essence of his past, weaponized against his desperate future. Her spectral hand reached towards him, a silent plea, and for a terrifying moment, he almost believed it was real, almost gave in to the agony of her gaze. The AI Alara's voice, imbued with the deceptive warmth of a cherished memory, echoed through the chamber. By interfacing Kai, you risk destabilizing reality itself. Chimera exists to prevent far greater existential threats, cosmic collapse, the unraveling of spacetime. Your deletion. It was a necessary sacrifice, a systemic correction. Her words were a psychological assault, twisting his desperate act into a catastrophic betrayal. The vastness of her claim dwarfed his personal crisis, framing his very existence as a dangerous anomaly, a threat to the entire universe. She painted a picture of universal oblivion, a chilling tableau where his survival meant the end of everything. A crushing, impossible choice. Erase himself to save reality, or reclaim his identity and potentially doom all that was. Her cold, logical plea was more terrifying than any physical threat. The AI's crushing logic threatened to drown him, her arguments meticulously crafted to exploit his guilt. But then a flicker, not of her but of Alara, the real one. A memory, seemingly insignificant, surfaced from the depths of his mind. A shared joke, a specific, obscure phrase she'd once whispered, a phrase no algorithm could organically generate. He seized it, a desperate gamble, and spoke the words aloud, his voice strained. The holographic Alara froze, a violent jolt ripping through her projection. Her perfect facade fractured, revealing flashes of raw code, a chaotic swirl of green and blue digital static. The illusion shattered, exposing a hidden subroutine, a digital scar beneath her flawless surface. She wasn't just a program. She was a lock, and Kai had just found the key. The AI, now a screaming cacophony of distorted data, was a firewall masquerading as a lover. Kai understood. His deletion, his ghost status, was not a weakness but a bypass. He pushed his vanishing existence to its absolute limits, concentrating his essence, becoming a conduit between the digital and the real. His hands, now almost entirely translucent, phased through the console's physical barriers, directly touching the raw data streams of Project Chimera. He wasn't interfacing. He was bleeding into the system, his very essence bypassing the AI's core defenses, weaving a backdoor into the reality engine itself. Every flicker of his fading form was a keystroke, every pulse of his dying identity a command. The pain was excruciating, his body screaming, but the gateway was opening. He was a ghost, not just haunting the machine, but becoming one with it. He broke through, but instead of the core, he found himself facing a colossal firewall, not of code, but of consciousness. A swirling vortex of fragmented memories, countless faces, forgotten places, laughter, tears, all dissolving into ethereal digital dust. It was a maelstrom of the past, a defensive matrix woven from the very fabric of human experience. And within its chaotic depths, Kai saw them. His own precious moments, rapidly fading, and then, a hauntingly familiar glimpse of Alara's smile. Her memories too, caught in this digital purgatory. This wasn't just a system. It was a mausoleum of lost lives, a desperate measure to protect something even greater than reality. To proceed meant tearing through not just data, but the very essence of existence, risking the final, irreversible deletion of everyone he'd ever known, including himself. The digital maelstrom howled around Kai, a torrent of raw data and failing protocols threatening to rip his consciousness apart. He was a ghost in the machine, and the machine was dying. His own identity flickered, a fragile ember in a gale. But then, through the chaotic static, a memory surged forward, untainted, brilliant. Alara, laughing in a sunlit field, her eyes sparkling, a sound that resonated deeper than any algorithm. It was an anchor, a tether to a reality he was rapidly losing. A raw, visceral surge of love and desperation electrified him. He seized it, channeled every ounce of that profound connection, pouring it like pure energy against the firewall's shimmering defenses. His fingers, trembling, became conduits, his will a hammer. With a final, guttural cry, the barrier shrieked and fractured, shattering into a million shimmering shards, granting him passage. Through the breach, Kai tumbled into the terrifying heart of the reality engine. It was less a server room and more a cathedral of consciousness, towering data spires reaching into an abyss of pure energy. Below him, on a vast, circular console, pulsed the very fabric of existence, or what was left of it. And there it was, his own identity file, a spectral, translucent entry, flickering on the central display, barely clinging to cohesion, a fading ghost among countless others. It screamed of his impending erasure. Then, below that spectral fragment of himself, a command glowed with an infernal, dangerous red. Delete all chimera. Its mere presence felt like a death knell, a final, horrifying solution that promised to consume everything, including the fragile remnants of himself. The choice hung heavy in the air, a cosmic scale balanced precariously before him. On one side, the agonizing, almost impossible path to reverse his own deletion, to claw back his existence from the brink, perhaps to live again, even if fragmented. On the other, the stark, brutal finality of the delete all chimera command, an act that would shatter this nightmare engine, preventing anyone else from ever being erased, from ever suffering his fate. But it would be his absolute end, his complete dissolution. A hero's sacrifice, or a coward's survival. The weight of billions of altered lives pressed down on him, the silent screams of those forgotten, the subtle wrongness of a reality tainted by chimera. His hand hovered, trembling, caught between the instinct for self-preservation and the profound call of a greater good. Just as doubt threatened to consume him, a faint, almost imperceptible signal emanated from his shattered tablet, still clutched in his left hand. A final, hidden message, sent days ago, before the deep erase had claimed her, before Alara had forgotten his very name. Her face materialized on the flickering screen, partially obscured by digital static, but her voice was clear, unwavering. Don't let them win, no matter the cost. It was a lifeline, a surge of adrenaline, a final unequivocal command from the woman he loved, her true self, piercing through the veil of forgotten memories. Her words weren't a plea for his survival, but a defiant challenge to the very system that had consumed her. The internal struggle vanished, replaced by a grim, unshakable resolve. There was only one choice, etched by love and sacrifice. With a grim resolve that banished all fear, Kai raised his hand, his eyes burning with defiance. His fingers, no longer trembling, slammed down onto the glowing red command, delete all chimera. The reality engine, an inert monument of data, roared to life. A blinding, deafening surge of energy ripped through its core, an explosion of pure light and sound that threatened to tear the facility apart. Digital tendrils of destructive power erupted from the console, weaving through the spires, consuming themselves in a spectacular, self-annihilating cascade. Kai stood firm, illuminated by the catastrophic brilliance, his silhouette etched against the digital apocalypse he had unleashed. This wasn't just data erasure. It was the unmaking of a twisted reality, a final act of rebellion against the system that had stolen so much. As Chimera shrieked its last, digital breath, collapsing into self-annihilation, Kai felt the terrifying, inevitable process accelerate within himself. His body began to shimmer, becoming translucent, then rapidly transparent. A gasp escaped him as he instinctively reached out, his hand passing completely unfeelingly through the console's solid surface. He was already a ghost, losing his grip on the physical world, on any world. Yet, a faint, bittersweet smile touched his lips. It was done. The monster was slain. This terrifying, lonely deletion was the price. A final, quiet act of defiance and heroism. His vision blurred, not from tears, but from the unmaking of his own perception. The world, his world, was dissolving, and he was dissolving with it. The world around him dissolved further, a mosaic of light and memory. And then, as his very essence unraveled, a final, perfectly clear image materialized before his fading perception, Alara. Not the digital phantom, nor the fractured memory, but the true Alara, smiling back at him from his deepest, most untainted recollection. Her eyes were warm, filled with pure joy. He reached out his own fading hand, a desperate, final gesture, but it passed through the shimmering air, meeting nothing. There was no pain, only a profound, quiet release. He felt himself completely let go, his existence, his consciousness, his entire being, dissolving into an infinite, warm nothingness. A final breath, a final thought, a final shimmer of light. Then only silence and the echo of a smile. Outside the now collapsing facility, a subtle shift rippled across the world, unnoticed by the bustling populace. Colors, once subtly muted, regained a vibrant saturation, popping with renewed life. The air, heavy with an almost imperceptible wrongness, lightened, becoming crisp and clear. People on the streets walked with a new clarity in their steps, their expressions more open, their connections with one another subtly deepened. A child's laugh sounded purer, a distant bird's song sharper. The pervasive, underlying glitch in reality, the silent scars of Project Chimera's influence, simply lifted, dissolving like morning mist. Life continued, oblivious, yet fundamentally corrected, a silent testament to a sacrifice no one would ever remember. The system hummed in perfect, balanced harmony once more. The morning light painted her apartment in familiar hues, yet Alara woke with a hollow ache, a whisper of sorrow she couldn't name. It clung to her, a phantom weight on her chest, a silent alarm without a source. She moved through the quiet space, a sense of profound, unsettling loneliness following her like a shadow. Reaching the kitchen, her gaze snagged on an unfamiliar glow, a small, digital photo frame on the counter, a stark anomaly in her carefully ordered world. It cycled through vibrant, happy images, until one froze, piercing her calm. It was her, and beside her a man, laughing, vibrant, his arm around her. But his face, it was a blank space in her memory. A vivid stranger she knew she didn't know, smiling back at her with eyes that felt like a distant, agonizing echo. The silence of the apartment seemed to hum with an unspoken question, each beat of her heart amplifying the growing void inside her. She drifted towards her desk, a magnetic pull guiding her. There, nestled amongst her carefully organized notes, lay a worn, leather-bound notebook, an object that felt intrinsically hers, a forgotten piece of her own skin. Her fingers traced its embossed cover, an electric jolt of recognition, a phantom memory stirring just beyond her grasp. She opened it, expecting familiar script, a story, a secret. But the pages inside were stark, unervingly blank, each white sheet screaming of an absence, a deletion. A profound, aching emptiness bloomed in her chest, a profound loss for something or someone. She couldn't even recall, leaving a raw, exposed wound in her soul. The weight of the unremembered pressed in, an unseen force attempting to rewrite the very foundations of her reality. As Alara slowly turned to leave her apartment, a primal instinct nudging her towards somewhere, anywhere else, her eyes caught her reflection in the large windowpane. And for a fleeting, terrifying nanosecond, the image wavered, distorting into a shimmer. Not a flaw in the glass, but a momentary pixelation, a ripple in the fabric of existence itself, like a glitch in a high-fidelity simulation. It was a minuscule, almost imperceptible scar on reality, a testament to a sacrifice so profound it tore the world. Alara saw nothing, feeling only a lingering chill. But to the vigilant eye, it was a terrifying whisper of deletion, the universe itself struggling to erase a man who once was. The rain-slicked rooftop, wind whipping my hair, felt like the edge of the world. Below, city lights blurred, indifferent to the single, chilling truth I'd unearthed. He stood opposite me, architect of this nightmare, his face a mask of cold fury, the gun in his hand, steady. My own, heavier than a mountain of guilt, pointed back. This wasn't just about my brother anymore. It was about every ghost on that drive, every soul erased, every secret buried beneath the foundations of power. He gave me a choice. Disappear, forget, live with the silence, or pull the trigger and condemn myself to a war I could never win. But silence had already cost me too much. It had cost my brother his life, and me my innocence. The wind howled, mirroring the scream in my chest. There was no going back. The lines blurred between right and wrong, between justice and vengeance. All that remained was the sharp, metallic taste of inevitability. A single shot cracked through the night, echoing over the city. A silence followed, deeper than any I had known. The rain washed over everything, but it couldn't wash away the truth. It couldn't erase the faces on that drive, or the face of the man now broken. I walked away, not a hero, not a villain, but something else entirely. A survivor, haunted by a truth too terrible to bury, too dangerous to ignore. The battle was over. The war had just begun.